This is On the Sidelines with Box 13.
All right, welcome back into another episode of the On the Sidelines podcast. I'm your host, Ethan McReynolds, here as always with my partner in crime, DJ Dante Jackson, and rejoining us, we didn't scare him away, Sports Director Aaron Levine. Aaron, thank you so much for not only leading our fearless sports department and embracing this podcast, but rejoining us here.
Thanks for having me back. I've been banging back on the door, trying to get back in, and you guys finally let me in. So
And I told Ethan you have a permanent sideline pass anytime you want. Free access.
Appreciate it.
Well, we have a lot of stuff to dive into with you. Not only did the Sounders play in the biggest tournament in club history, but there was some news in the basketball world that pertains to us here in Seattle, so we're going to dive into that. But I think it would be a crime against humanity, probably punishable by death, if we did not start with the Big Dumper and what he is doing, the historic run that he is on. Alex Mayer tweeting yesterday. I actually don't have the tweet. He's on pace to break the American League home run record. I mean, the stuff that he's doing from the catcher position is just out of this world. Aaron, what have you seen from the Big Dumper, Caleb Raleigh?
It's also a crime against humanity that he hasn't been getting more attention nationwide.
Yes.
And I know it's been growing and the popularity has been growing, but it's not to the point where it should be at this point. Because if you extrapolate his numbers over the course of an entire season, he's on pace right now to finish the season with between 66 and 67 home runs. Only one time in the non-steroid era has Roger Maris's previous record of 61 home runs been topped. This guy has done it all and should be getting a lot more attention when it comes to being the American League MVP. He should be the front runner right now and not Aaron Judge.
And I agree. And simply because of the catcher position, how tough that position is and how he handled this staff that's been riddled with injuries. I mean, we had Ace down and Logan Gilbert. We had Kirby down. And Cal has kept this and held this team and this staff together. And I always say he's the star that we thought Julio would be. I did not see this coming out of Cal Raleigh. I mean, he's been a great player this season. Where did this come from?
Well, I talked about it on our commentary on Sunday night on Seattle Sports Live, how this is reminiscent to me of my favorite summer of baseball, and that was 1998, because you had, albeit during the steroid era, but we didn't know it at the time, that great home run race back and forth between Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire. And it was must-see TV every single night. And yet here we have a player like Cal Raleigh who is our own. He is Seattle's, and he's doing it the right way, presumably, where he is clean. And again, not part of that steroid era that began with McGwire and Sosa and ended with Barry Bonds' 73 home runs. If you're going to wipe those potentially off of the map, then you have Cal Raleigh in position right now to have the most home runs in Major League Baseball history. That's incredible.
Yes.
Absolutely correct. And you mentioned the home runs, but it's not only the home runs that stand out about his production. As of before yesterday's game, Tuesday against the Twins, Cal on pace for 67 home runs, 143 RBIs. Yesterday, he didn't hit a home run. Yeah. He smacked a double off the wall, and then he smoked a single for another RBI. Like, he's just doing it all. On top of that, 120 runs he's getting on base, 95 walks he's on pace for, and 19 stolen bases. A catcher on pace for almost 20 stolen bases an entire season.
It's amazing. And you talk about how he's doing it all. I love the way he's doing it, the quiet demeanor, the quiet leader. And maybe that's the reason why he's not the front runner for the MVP. He's a quiet leader. He lets his stick do the talking, you know. And that stick, torpedo bat? Yes. I mean, it's working for him right now. And a lot of people was thanking the Yankees for that.
Yeah.
How about this? What's the stigma about T-Mobile Park? That it's difficult.
It's a pitcher's park.
Pitcher's park, difficult
Suppresses
to home runs.
runs. Yep.
And the leader in home runs in Major League Baseball right now is Cal Raleigh, whose home stadium is T-Mobile Park. So the fact that he is doing this half of the time when he's here in Seattle at a pitcher-friendly ballpark is just one more notch in his corner.
Do you have him as a front runner in the MVP race?
Personally, yes, I think he should right now. But the crazy part is, if you go back to less than a month ago, May 28th, and check my X account, because I was on this and I was astounded at that time that if you had made a $10 bet on Aaron Judge at that time on DraftKings, I believe he was negative 33,000 to win, which means if you put a $10 bet on Aaron Judge and he ended up winning AL MVP, you would have netted 33 cents.
Yeah.
But if you had put that same $10 on Cal Raleigh at that time, he was 90 to 1. You would have won $900. That 90 to 1 odds is now down to around 6 to 1 or 7 to 1. So people are starting to pay attention, at least the betting markets are. And he now has a fighter's chance to win American League MVP.
Ridiculous for a Mariners catcher. Before we get, I want to dive into the MVP odds and compare Cal Raleigh and Aaron Judge. Before that, me and my buddy have sort of this running joke of comparing players to prime Barry Bonds whenever they have a hot week. There's Donovan Solano. We got prime Barry Bonds in the lineup. Jared Kelenic had that hot little 2-week stretch. Oh, well, good thing Jared Kelenic turned into prime Barry Bonds. Cal Raleigh is literally playing like prime Barry Bonds right now. Check this out. MLB on Fox, national account, by the way, posting this comparison between Cal Raleigh this season through 77 games, which is before yesterday's game on Tuesday, with 2001 Barry Bonds. That's Barry Bonds that broke the home run record at over 70. Cal just 7 home runs behind Bonds with 32 to his 39. 2 RBIs behind at 68 compared to his 70. Cal with another RBI yesterday, now at 69. And they're both OPSing over 1,000. Just absolutely crazy stuff. If we dive into the MVP race, the odds, Aaron, actually, from when we talked about this yesterday, have gone down. The margin has slimmed. 5 to 1 odds for Cal Raleigh to win MVP. Aaron Judge, I believe, did not have a hit. When I updated this from when I made this yesterday, all the numbers have gone down. Cal Raleigh has gotten even closer. Cal 4 home runs more than Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge second in MLB in home runs, still 4 behind Cal Raleigh's 32.
What I do like about this is over the course of the last week, the buzz that Cal has been getting on social media, specifically Instagram and TikTok, and the mashups of some of the shout outs that he's gotten from all the various national shows across the country has been growing. And you know, in this day and age, when you go viral, people start to notice. So this is maybe a big difference in him coming down to 5 to 1, along with the number of home runs he's hit over the course of the last week or so. Combination of that, now people are starting to take notice, and now we have potentially a 50-50 toss-up between Raleigh and Judge at this point of the season.
You've got some big people talking about it. Dan Plesac on MLB Network making the case for Cal Raleigh to win MVP. You've got the Pat McAfee show taking notice. These are ginormous media accounts that just within the last couple of days are like, man, this big dumper's got a chance at this thing.
He does have a chance. And you talk about the attention. Now he's finally getting the attention from the whole Pacific Northwest. And it's a vocal minority that's talking about they don't want Cal in the home run derby. What are you talking about? This guy needs to go and get that attention and bring that attention. This will help him in the MVP race and help his national profile. So for all those people talking about Cal, no, sit down, take your rest, and don't be in the home run derby, I disagree. Cal needs to get out there and bash.
One more point, and it comes and very transparently, and I think a lot of people realize this, is in the sports media world, when a player is nice to you, you tend to be a little bit more in favor of that player. It's just plain. They tend, exactly. Cal is one of the most down-to-earth, solid human beings. And from my experience, I've been to spring training about 7 or 8 times in the last 18 years or so. Never have I had a player from about 20, 30 feet away the first time he sees me that spring say, "Hey, how are you? How was your off season? How is your family doing?" That's what Cal did. And not just that, from a personal perspective, when going to a Mariners game, a lot of people go before games when the pitchers are warming up right behind the bullpen area. I was there with my 8-year-old son, Caden, and they were all lined up, watching the pitchers warm up before the game. And Cal was there, and my son was probably the only person under 15 years old that was along the lines there, and he looked up and he had nothing to do with me. Didn't see me at all. Caden was the only one that was there on the fence, and he looked up and he just threw a ball up to him. And that's just very genuine Cal. He is, and he now has my son as one of his favorite players, going forward because of that.
Yes,
he's as authentic as they come, and he's here for the next 5 seasons. Just signed that incredible deal for the Mariners. Probably going to go. It's going to go down as the best contract ever signed. Or the Mariners have ever given.
And real quickly, what I like about that deal is he has the no trade clause. So Cal wants to be here in Seattle, and to Aaron's point, good people, I mean, make you feel good and you like to root for him. Well, he wants to be here. That makes me want to root for him also. The fact that he wants to be in Seattle, he's not asking out like some of the stars have, and he's a quiet leader. The way he leads this team, I love Cal Raleigh right now.
Probably left a lot of money on the table in the process,
he
but the
definitely
fact
did.
that he wanted to be here in Seattle is a big deal, and the fact that he signed it.
Absolutely. I want to broaden it out really quick. So the Mariners sit 4.5 games out from the Houston Astros at the time of this taping on Wednesday. I want to bring in a new segment that we haven't done before, the Puget Sound Panic Meter. So I'm going to ask you guys on a scale of 1 to 10, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being most panicked, 1 being the least panicked. How panicked are you about their odds to catch the Astros in the division? As of today, Fangraphs have the Mariners at a 24.5% chance to win the division. Aaron, where do you sit on the panic meter? Mariners being 4.5 games back of the Astros.
Well, if you're going to set the parameters of winning the division, then it's a 1 out of 10. I'm not panicking at all.
Okay.
Because the focus for the Mariners shouldn't be just to win the division. It needs to be, at the very bare minimum, making the postseason. So my panic level in making the postseason is probably about a 7 or an 8 at this point, even though they are in wild card playoff position due to their last couple of games, and they've popped back up into that. Whether they win the division or not my concern at this point. They just need to make the playoffs. It takes a certain kind of team to miss the playoffs by just 1 game in 3 out of the last 4 years. They need to pop above that line and give themselves a chance, because as they say in poker, a chip and a chair, you get yourself a chance in the postseason. With the potential of this pitching staff and starting rotation, you got a chance to win a championship.
My number is 7 or 8, because I agree they must make the playoffs, but I think they also need to win this division simply because, we have those weaker divisions where another team's record might be better than the Mariners actually. So, and you might miss the playoffs by 1 game again, and heads will roll if they don't, and mine especially, right? Because I picked this team to make it to the championship. I think once they're in, the Mariners will be a top contender for the championship. I truly believe in this team and this pitching staff if it gets healthy. So I think the panic meter is probably around a 7 or 8, where I'm very concerned if they can't win the division.
Aaron, I agree with you that making the postseason point blank is the objective.
Priority,
if this team gets into the playoffs, hopefully with this pitching staff sort of recouping and getting stronger throughout the season, they're going to be a threat. They're going to be a major threat. I bring this question up because my number is at a 6, and I am concerned about the division race because this is the year that you wanted to overtake the Astros. They trade away Kyle Tucker. They don't re-sign Alex Bregman in free agency because they don't want to commit that financial commitment. Yordan Alvarez out without a timeline to come back from a hand fracture. This was the year to go and get the Astros. And what have we been saying the last couple of years? This team, not doing as much in the offseason, hinging on Julio Rodriguez to play at an MVP level. Well, it's not Julio Rodriguez, but you have somebody in the MVP race who, we've talked about this entire show, has a legit shot to actually win it in Cal Raleigh, and they sit 4.5 games back from the Houston Astros. Because of that, because of the rest of this roster and what they've been able to accomplish with an MVP candidate on their team so far this season, my panic meter is at a 6, and if they don't, start gaining some ground towards the All-Star break, it's probably going to go up.
And they get a mental boost from beating the Astros for the division. I mean, I think they need to get over that hump, and I think that will propel them into the playoffs and have them be successful. So if you get over that mental hump of a team like the Astros that done beat you in the 4 out of the last 5 years or whatever, they've owned the division recently. I think if you get over that mental hump, it'll propel you to the playoffs and success.
I want to move on. Cal Raleigh is not the only big story in town.
No.
Crazy to think with an MVP candidate. The Sounders just finished playing in the biggest tournament they've ever played in club history, the Club World Cup. The best teams in Europe, all in the United States. PSG, the best team in the world, in Seattle. Aaron, you and I were there all week. What was your take on the environment, the experience?
It was a fantastic experience. And while we would have all loved to have seen the Sounders pull off some sort of result, whether it was against Botafogo, which was probably their best chance, or Atletico Madrid, or PSG, they kept all 3 of those games competitive. And that was the main goal, at least stated goal, by Brian Schmetzer going in. I go back and I'll say this story, and I have said it many times before. More than a decade ago, we had Manchester United and we had Chelsea and Tottenham Hotspur all come to town and play the Sounders in a friendly. And everybody remembers that bloodbath that was the Man U friendly, where the Sounders lost 7-0. And when Garth Lagerwey, the then general manager, came to town, they stopped bringing these major competitors, known worldwide, to Seattle for friendlies. And I was a little disappointed. Why aren't we bringing Man City and Real Madrid to town to play the Sounders and see how good they could be, even though it was a friendly? And Garth's answer was very simple. He said, we do not want to host these major teams in a friendly. We want to play them in a tournament that is meaningful with a trophy on the line. And guess what? They got their wish. Well, you asked for it. You better put your money where your mouth is. And I probably shouldn't have used that metaphor because they're not spending a lot of money because of Major League Soccer, and we'll get to that. But guess what? They asked for it, and they weren't blown out. And it really shows, I believe, over the course of the last 12, 13 years, the progress that Major League Soccer has made on the world stage relative to some of the best perceived clubs and perceived leagues around the world. To lose to PSG by just 2 goals in that match was a major coup in the Sounders' corner.
Well, and you should have gone into halftime against the European champions. You should have been level. An unlucky goal that deflects in, and sometimes that just happens in the sport. But to be down at half just 1-0 in general, I mean, just what an accomplishment for these guys. They showed a lot of grit. They showed a lot of. We talked about fearlessness. I mean, they were just all over the pitch, challenging these guys. Saying we belong here. That was the biggest statement that I saw from the Sounders. What about you?
You talk about they belong. One person that I want to point out that did belong was Christian Roldan. I must give a shout out to him. I mean, he was all over the place. He was playing tough. He was leading. He scored the first goal MLS history in the Club World Cup. So he made history. Christian Roldan made himself some money in this tournament. And if not, I know we talked about him maybe earning a spot on a U.S. team.
Well, to your point, DJ, and I really believe this, is that Christian Roldan deserves a chance to play for Team USA next year in the World Cup, and he deserves come June 19th when Team USA plays at Lumen Field in that group stage match, that Christian Roldan has an opportunity to play on his home field. There's been a knock on him, a perception that because he doesn't play overseas for one of those clubs elsewhere, that he's not worthy of being on the United States national team. I know he's been with the national team before. They need to give him another opportunity because what he demonstrated in those 3 games against top competition, you have the Brazilian League champions, you have a top team from Spain, you have a top team from Europe in PSG, and he held his own out there.
Yes, he did.
And he can hold his own for Team USA in the World Cup as well.
I just watched him in the Gold Cup. He's definitely belongs on that team. So
well, and I will say, I mean, it might be something that the national team is missing. I feel like talent-wise, Christian maybe doesn't stack up with some of the other options they have in that defensive midfield. But what the national team is missing is somebody that's willing to play for the badge like Christian played for the Sounders, with that pride, with that intensity, with that fearlessness, with that motivation, that fire under your butt. Like just going after guys and providing that spark, that energy. That's what the national team needs right now. You have this whole controversy of Christian Pulisic, needing a break, not playing in the Gold Cup, guys not having that, energy to play for your national team as some of those, the bigger countries do. You saw Cristiano Ronaldo playing in the Nations League, after a whole long season in Saudi Arabia, and he's as passionate as ever. We don't really have, there's sort of a talked about issue that maybe we don't have that within the national team. You know who would provide that? Christian Roldan.
And how much of a red flag is that, given that we're going into a World Cup year where you are hosting a World Cup for the first time in 32 years?
Yes.
To have that opportunity, this is going to be a huge litmus test about how far United States soccer has come since they first hosted that World Cup in 1994. And I remember it was a huge accomplishment for the U.S. at the time with Alexei Lalas and Eric Winalda and all of them to get past the group stage. They beat Colombia in group play in Los Angeles 2-1, and that was incredible at that time. But they need to prove that more than 3 decades later, this is the state of U.S. soccer. We can't only just be expected and do move on past the knockout stage, but we can get past that first knockout stage also and make it to the round of 16, potentially a quarterfinal as well, when you're able to host a World Cup.
Yes, and you talk about Rodon, he would bring that experience and that energy, and he can play. And that's not get it right. He won't be a mascot out there. This guy was all over the place. He proved himself. He can play on this team. He would be a leader on this team, and that's what I think they're missing. That wily veteran, that leadership. He will bring that. He definitely belongs on this team.
I want to bring this back into the Sounders moving forward into the MLS regular season. They host Austin FC on Saturday. There's 2 ways that I can see this going. Either they come out of this tournament with a lot of confidence, having played up to a certain level with these European and Botafogo, South American club, coming in here and really holding their own. Or it's sort of a letdown with all the anticipation, all the energy and effort spent during this time when maybe other MLS teams are able to rest. Yes. It's sort of a letdown come Saturday and moving forward before they can sort of find their footing. Aaron, which direction do you see it going?
I think it goes both directions. In fact, it's going to be a combination of both. First, they did get a lot of confidence from their showing, and I think the players are going to harness that confidence going forward. Number 2, it is going to be a letdown, regardless of how you spin it. When you play in a match as big as PSG, Brad Evans made the comparison to when he played for the U.S. national team. When he played in a big game, you put all of your energy in that, and you leave it all out on the field. And then when you come back from that, it is very difficult mentally and physically to refocus and reharness yourself as you go into regular MLS play. Now, I think it's going to be nice in the adjustment this weekend that they do get to play on the same grass field at home as they did, because there's not enough time to take the grass off of Lumen Field following the Inter Milan match that's being played today against River Plate of Argentina. So they will get 1 match with the grass before the turf comes back. I also love the fact that the Sounders play 4 of their next 5 games at home, and they've been home for the last 3 games as well. So there's not going to be that distraction of having to go on the road. They've been able to be home for the last month or so. They'll be home for the most part for the next month or so also. They're currently, 5th or 6th in the Western Conference.
Tied for 5th.
They've lost their last 2 games to Portland and Minnesota. They've only lost 1 match at home all season long. It has been a fortress for themselves. And when I'm talking about MLS play, they just need to be able to get the ball in the back of the net. That's been their big bugaboo for about most of the season. If they're able to do that, I think they're probably going to win 4 out of the next 5 games, get results at the very least, move up in the standings, get those points.
Yeah, and Christian Roldan said after, believe it was after the PSG game, that, looking ahead, that they're going to wake up just the same for Austin FC. Come on. Come on.
Maybe he will.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe he will.
They are human at the end of the day. So you gotta find a way to bring that extra juice that you had against PSG, going up against one of the best right backs in the world, the best goalkeeper in the world, starting for Italy and Donnarumma. They didn't have the Ballon d'Or candidate and Ousmane Dembele up there, but you've got some of the best midfielder pairings in the world, Vitinha and Fabian Ruiz for PSG. Just talent you're not getting that against Austin FC.
You know what? This is where Brian Smetzer comes in.
Yes.
It'll be his job to get this team. Also the depth. You got to play some of these younger guys that haven't had a chance to show, like a Pedro de la Vega. Give him more time, get Kent in there for a little bit more run. So this will fall on, I think, the coach Smetzer. So
how about Pedro de la Vega? I just got to make the comparison. He looks like a golden retriever out there with that hair flopping, and he just go get the ball every time. Just that's what he's chasing after the ball. It reminds me of a golden retriever.
Absolutely. Well, in that motor, and what was it, the Atletico Madrid game where the ball's sort of going out of bounds in the right side corner? Everyone thinks it's going out. Pedro sprints in there, slides, saves the ball, crashes into the boards, and then comes back out with the ball. That's the drive, the relentlessness that this team needs. I think it's a prime example of how the Sounders showed themselves in this tournament. Aaron, you mentioned putting the ball in the back of the net. Something the Sounders need to do. Yeah. How awesome was it to see Jordan Morris come on against PSG in the last 10 minutes of that match, and then put a shot on goal?
Yes.
And if he would have scored there, I mean, my God. But how awesome was it seeing the Mercer Island native, the Sounders' all-time leading goal scorer, back on the field after the sustained. I think it was 58 days since he last played in late April.
August 27th, August 28th was, I think, was last
April,
or April. Sorry, April, the other A month.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're talking about Jordan Morris and how well they did, the Sounders, in those 3 matches without, for the most part, their top goal scorer, their top offensive player in Jordan Morris, and top defender in Yamar. I mean, they were able to hold their own. Great opportunity to see Jordan Morris. I'm glad he came back. I would have loved to have seen him, and again, hindsight's 50-50. It's 2020. Hindsight's, give me all my
hindsight's
metaphors,
more than 2020.
Yeah, well, maybe my hindsight's 50-50. It's not very good when I look back. But honestly, they had an opportunity. It was 1-0 at half.
Yeah.
And if they had been able to keep PSG at a 1-goal game into the 75th minute, I would have brought Jordan Morris in 10 minutes earlier to see if you can get that equalizer. Unfortunately, PSG got that second goal. Morris comes in, has that great opportunity in the box. In fact, 2 of their best opportunities of the game came in consecutive minutes. I believe in like the 85th and 86th minute in that one. That's the only disappointment from the PSG game, was the opportunity for the Sounders to be the only MLS team to score a goal in all 3 group stage matches, because they did so against Botafogo and Atletico Madrid. Would have loved to have seen them get one against PSG as well.
What do you think about PSG coach complaining about the grass? I mean, I thought they had been growing that grass for years.
I didn't see that, but I mean,
yeah, he said that it got dry within like 10 minutes within the second half. The ball was bouncing a mile high. I thought that was interesting because a lot of the players that we had heard from really liked the grass. But I mean, the Sounders players comparing it to the turf they normally play on. So maybe that's a factor. But it's interesting that the international coach comes in here after winning here, and he's like, it still wasn't good enough.
Well,
so.
and the one thing that stood out to me about his post-game comments and talking about PSG's coach is that he really gave praise to Brian Schmetzer.
Yes.
And given that, he appreciated the strategy that Schmetzer employed in the game. He appreciated the way Schmetzer coached, and I think he made some comparison as to if our team or our players were switched and he was coaching my guys, I mean, they would have won easily, or something to that effect, and had nothing to do with the players and talent. It had everything to do with the way Schmetzer coached. So that was big praise from a well-known international coach to Brian Schmetzer, who, by the way, has never been given that opportunity to be the national coach. And I know that there's probably part of Brian that would have loved that opportunity at some point in his career, and he was probably very deserving, and it's disappointing. Then again, we're a little bit selfish in having him as the Sounders head coach and having won a couple of MLS championships along the way, too.
Yeah, Brian, we need you to stay.
Yeah.
We love you. Let's move on. I want to talk some basketball. Well, I don't really want to talk some basketball, but I feel like it's incredibly relevant with our current Seattle sports scene right now. The Pacers losing Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Who'd they lose to again? I don't really remember.
I just know they lost Game 7. That's
all
I reported.
That's all that matters, really. I thought the Thunder were going to sweep the Pacers coming in. The fact that they gave us a series and Seattle a lot of hope, to keep that Sonics curse going. It was a magnificent show, but a bummer to see the Thunder lift that trophy, to see them get a parade before the Sonics return to Seattle. By the way, their parade just not full.
You mean not all 5 people who showed up?
Yeah, all 5 people. Yeah, just honestly for me.
We're going to troll parades now. We're going to troll parades.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you guys.
Nothing is off the table.
Right? We're not above that.
I wanted to ask you guys how you felt with the Thunder winning the title and what emotions it brought up. For me, it didn't really. I missed the entire game. I missed the game entirely. With some other stuff going on, but seeing the parade and how just not fit for an NBA champion the crowd was, that frustrated me, because I know that if that championship was here in Seattle, the Seattle Supersonics, man, I mean, every single police officer resource in town would be there patrolling what would be absolute mayhem, the parade, and everyone celebrating so passionately for their Sonics. But Aaron, what emotions did it bring up for you?
Well, first off, the Sonics were the first major professional sports championship in this city, and the parade was one that reflected that. And we see, and there are people that took off school and took off work that day, and that was before the 700,000 plus showed up for the Seahawks Super Bowl parade.
I was there
a long time ago. You're talking about 1979 when the Sonics won. When that other team won this past weekend, it brought up a lot of repressed emotions, specifically seeing the owner of that team and his sly smirk on the podium along with, listen, it has nothing to do with the players. I give them a whole lot of credit. Listen, Chet Holmgren's a Gonzaga guy. You're a Gonzaga guy. Yep. Happy for the players. SGA is a fantastic player also. But it's the regime that still is frustrating, because it's the same guys that stole this team from Seattle, starting with that owner. Not even going to give him the time of day, won't even say his name at this point. But for him to have been up on the podium that way, and even their general manager was here also. I'll say Sam Presti. I actually like the guy. But I don't like the fact that he is representing that team, unfortunately, because it brings back memories of one of my last interviews was with Sam Presti, and he was in his car driving outside the Furtado Center, and he wasn't sure whether that was going to be, or at least outwardly, he said, I don't know whether this will be the last time that we see each other, because overnight they brought those big cargo trucks or whatever and brought everything away. And they were gone forever, unfortunately. And so, again, you mentioned it, the fact that they won a championship before the Sonics got a team back really hit hard. And hopefully it has some sort of effect on the owners who finally, according to the agenda, are going to be talking about expansion at the Board of Governors meeting in the month of July this summer. Hopefully they're not too greedy and they say, hey, listen, expansion is a possibility and Seattle deserves a team, because we are ready. We have the ownership group. We have the arena. Every hurdle that we've had to jump through or over the last 16 years is now complete, except for the NBA saying, hey, guys, you get a team.
And I think that's where my anger turns towards is the NBA as an organization and the owners of the Zombie Sonics. For me though, it was kind of therapeutic. To be perfectly honest, I mean, I'm bring back our Sonics guy. Like, I hate that franchise, but I also found space to let it go. I mean, that team was born and bred in Oklahoma City. Had nothing to do with Seattle. They groomed those players, they developed those players, they developed that team, and they won that championship. That is Oklahoma City's championship. So right now, I think it kind of cut ties with the Seattle area with that championship. I'm going to let it go right there. I'm not going to harbor any ill feelings towards that team. But as far as the NBA, they need to stop playing in our face. They keep dangling the expansion subject, just keeping us on a rope just enough to give us hope. NBA, it is time to give Seattle its rightful team right now, and hopefully in this meeting that Aaron's talking about, they'll go ahead and announce it.
I think it's a really good point, because when the Thunder went to the finals with Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, back just a few years after the team had left, that team was crafted with Kevin Durant, who played a season in Seattle, Russell Westbrook, who was drafted in a Sonics hat. I feel like if that team had won a title, with how fresh the wound was, that would have been a lot more painful. The fact that they had to tear it to the studs and completely build it a fresh new in Oklahoma City, I think that impacts how much it would pain us a little bit.
Yes.
I'm happy that if it had to happen, it was not with Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook. I mean, for me, growing up, Kevin Durant, I still have a Kevin Durant Sonics jersey. That's what I grew up on. I was just the biggest Kevin Durant fan. And the fact that he's not able to be, I just want the Sonics to come back in time for Kevin Durant to have a send-off here in Seattle.
Love it.
For a Ken Griffey Jr. one last season here in town, because he loves it. He just dropped the KD retro Nike shoes with the really Sonics color. I was looking them up. I foolish me. I thought I was going to be able to cop a pair. 18 that they made total period.
And that's it.
Yeah. So
to your point quickly, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Quebec Nordiques moved to Colorado, and the Avalanche won a Stanley Cup either the following season or 2 years later. What a gut punch that must have been to the hockey fans in Quebec City that were big Nordique fans all those years, and then saw their team taken away, and then the Avalanche win the very next year.
I believe you. I can't say that I'm a big Nordique fan, so I'm not too familiar with the history. But absolute gut punch. Do you remember how long after the Sonics left that the Thunder became relevant? Because you were here
they
covering
were pretty
it.
Relevant very quickly.
Yes. I mean, how tough was that back then to covering it and see it sort of evolve into the powerhouse that they became.
Well, I mean, and that's no surprise because they gutted this team down to the studs and didn't even want this team to be competitive in those last couple of years in Seattle. That was all by design.
On purpose.
And in retrospect, you look at that and it's like, yeah, what I do remember and I will never forget is that very last Sonics home game when they played the Mavericks and Mark Cuban came to town, and Mark was one of 2 owners that had voted against relocation, along with Paul Allen, who was the Blazers owner at the time, and rest in peace. And he stuck to his guns and his principles and talking about Mark Cuban, and I spoke to him before the game, and that was the reason. He appreciated this city. He appreciated 4 decades of support for the Sonics franchise, and that's why he didn't think that they deserved to be moved. But the Save Our Sonics chant and Kevin Durant in his rookie season leading that Sonics team who had been down and out all season long to a win over what was a very good Mavericks team that night, along with the chants, we'll never forget it. Get goosebumps every time I talk about it and think about it, because that is the potential of what this city can be as a basketball town when the Sonics return.
And we know what this city can bring.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the best fans in the world. Look at the Sounders. Look at the Seahawks. Even the Mariners. I mean, they fill T-Mobile.
The Storm, the basketball support.
Exactly.
Sold out last night for Caleb
And if
Clark.
you go around the NBA to a man, you talk to the players, they love the Seattle stop, for those that can remember. So Seattle is a great sports town and still a basketball hotbed. I mean, you're talking about, packing the NBA with players from the high schools and the colleges here. So we definitely deserve a team. We have earned a team. Bring our Sonics back.
When the Thunder came into this playoffs and some of the other contenders were upset early and it looked more and more likely the Thunder were going to win it, I thought about what it was going to be like when they actually won it. And I thought it was going to be a lot of hatred and negativity and just scoffs and whatever, screw you NBA. My Twitter timeline when they won it was like just so much love and passion for the Sonics. Yeah. I was really surprised at it was everyone, every single person in this media landscape that the outpouring of love and nostalgia is not the right word, but wishing, wanting, needing the Sonics back in town. You brought up repressed emotions. I think just all of Seattle, just letting it all out a little bit.
Yeah, and it reminded me why I don't buy Starbucks regularly.
Great point.
And to this day, it's not just the owner of that team that stole them. It's also Howard Schultz that sold this city down the river for a couple $1 million profit at the time. And he knew exactly what he was doing. As much as he said that day that, I have every confidence that these guys are going to keep them in town, he knew what their motives were. And
him expressing, I believe it was in a book, that the way he dealt with the Sonics was like his biggest business failure. Yeah. Does that hold any value with you?
No, because I would rather him say, I'm sorry. Don't treat it like a business failure and hide behind that. And I treated it the wrong way. Say I'm sorry to this city.
Yes.
Like that, we've rarely, if ever, I don't think if we've ever heard contrition. And I've actually done a commentary. I think I did a commentary back in 2015 about this, and we're 10 years later, and he still hasn't said, my bad, I was wrong, I shouldn't have done that. I sold this city down the river yet again, and I'm sorry for that, and I apologize, and I'm going to do everything I can, if they will let me, to help bring a team back, because that was my bad.
And that's a slap in the face, talking about a business failure. Yeah. A business failure. Now that makes me angry, because you're talking about an organization that's the fabric of a city. It's more than just a team. It's more than just a business. It is a part of the city. And owners, you need to realize you are stewards of the franchise. They shouldn't even call you owners. That team belongs to the city. The Sonics belong to Seattle. Not a business failure.
And again, I encourage everybody, if they're not familiar with what went down, remind themselves or watch it for the first time. Sonics Gate, that documentary was one of the best documentaries ever done. And it really took everybody step by step as to how the Sonics ultimately ended up in Oklahoma City. There were so many cowards, and I don't use that word lightly, cowards in the process that did not step to the plate to try and defend this city from getting that Sonics team stolen away from us. Everything from the city's mayor and Greg Nichols and
to the late commissioner,
capitulating to the court that could have potentially kept the Sonics or forced the Sonics to stay in their lease at Key Arena for another couple of years. What happened in that 2-year period? There was 2009. We went into a major recession. And you know who was hit hardest by that recession? Audrey McClendon, who is one of the key owners and figures of the OKC ownership group. He might not have been able to afford that team and bring them to OKC had they kept the Sonics here for another couple of years. We don't know what was in that judge's envelope. She was ready to make a decision on that federal case, and to this day we don't know what her decision was.
Well, all eyes are going to be on that Board of Governors meeting in July. Hopefully there's some positive momentum to get a team back here in Seattle.
Bring back our Sonics.
All of our fans here rightly deserve. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the On the Sidelines podcast. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. Catch his stuff. He's very active on Twitter.
Well, now I'm heated, too. You bring that topic up, it's going to...
We just gave him the runway for next week's commentary.
There we go.
Check him out. It's fire.
Follow him on Twitter at Aaron.Levine_. And also follow our new Instagram for the podcast at On the Sidelines podcast.
Yes.
We're going to be posting a lot of clips over there, so do give it a follow. For Aaron, D-Jack, I'm Ethan McReynolds. We'll see you next time on the Sidelines.
Let's go!
On the Sidelines is available wherever you get your podcast.